Rob, how did you find carnivore?
Well, I stumbled upon it. I was already sort of down the keto rabbit hole, low carb, and I'd never really come across the word carnivore. Um, so I don't know if you've heard of carb backloading and carb night. So these were by somebody called John Kiefer. So somebody who I went to university with sent me like an ebook, and it was all about like low carb and getting really lean and healthy using this carb night, carb backloading approach. So I was introduced to like insulin and low carb and ketogenic sort of thing, and I learned all about that. I had a little bit of a background of physiology, so it made it easier to understand. But I was from like a bodybuilding background where it's like 6 meals a day, chicken and rice, high carbs. So this was quite fascinating. So I went into all the low carb, and it kind of made sense. He went into all the physiology with like glucose transporters and ketogenesis and insulin and all the role in that. I thought, oh, this is great. So basically, this carb night approach was so 6 days a week you were ketogenic low carb, but there was obviously still some vegetables in there and things like that, so it wasn't quite carnivore. And then once a week you had like a big bolus of crap, basically like high glycemic rubbish food, and that's a good selling point. I thought, oh, brilliant! Like, because the picture of the book, I think it was a piece of cheesecake at the front and called Carb Night. I thought that's quite drawing in, and it worked. Like, but I felt really good 6 days a week, and then it kind of was like feeding that addiction on that last day. But I thought, oh, the science makes sense. This is brilliant. And I was maybe like in my 20s then, and I didn't care about my health enough. I didn't have children, so which we'll get on to with that. But I understood the science, and it was all about sort of being low insulin, and then once a week bumping your insulin with some carbs. Okay, that makes sense. But I never really got my head around this can't be healthy. Like, I'm eating cookies and cheesecake and candy and whatever it may be. But it kind of worked, and I just realised I felt better without the spike of carbs, and thought, okay, but I kind of wanted to challenge it and thought, why has that happened? So during this time, I'd competed in some natural bodybuilding competitions, and people start reaching out to you a little bit, saying, "Oh, what did you eat to get that lean? Can you help me?" And as I was at university, alongside that, I started doing a little bit of, I didn't call it online coaching then, but I was just helping people write diets. So, and then I used this sort of carb night approach. So that's eating carbs once a week, or the carb backloading approach was ketogenic through the day, and at night you add some carbs, which I don't think sort of fits. But anyway, but I tried it with my clients, and it was this once a week carb binge, basically, but ketogenic for the rest. And they got some amazing results. So I started to use it, and it kind of made sense physiologically, except for this bolus of carbs, which I didn't really understand. And then that sent me down that rabbit hole, and all of a sudden your algorithm on Instagram and YouTube starts showing you low carb stuff. And would you believe it, Sean Baker pops up on Joe Rogan, which is probably quite generic, like people's answers. But I didn't just want to start with Sean Baker, because there's a bit of background to it. So yeah, I was already like almost like sold in low carb. I got it and stuff, and then that was almost like the next level with Joe Rogan and Sean Baker, and I couldn't stop watching the podcast. I had my notes out, I was writing all sorts. I thought, this makes so much sense, and that's what I liked about it. It was just so logical, because I never really understood why you needed like a little bit of carbs on your plate, a little bit of vegetable on your plate, a little bit of meat on your plate. And sometimes those three things are from like 3 different continents. So I thought, how would I get an avocado if I lived in the UK or Iceland, or do you know, that sort of thing? So it never really, so that just kind of like was a light bulb moment when Sean Baker was explaining it so well. And I thought, how can it be that simple? But I thought it kind of is. It's like, why are we the only species on Earth that don't know what to eat? Do you know, a koala bear doesn't need a calculator. Do you know, that really resonated with me. I thought, okay, I can, and then just that listening to your body, and like going off my hunger, going off my satiety. I didn't have to have 6 lunch boxes with me anymore. You know, going out for the day. And it's almost like eating is now a choice, not an emergency. If I'm a little bit hungry now, but someone says, right, you need to drive to Scotland for 3 hours first. No problem. You know, that's what I love about it. It's so liberating. And that's what really resonated with me. Like that, I really took that from it. And then I started implementing to my clients. I thought, well, I feel this good on it. It's like I took it to another level. I did feel good. And then some clients, I had a client that I saw in person, and he had like psoriasis on his stomach, and he did the diet for like a couple of weeks. I got him to go carnivore, and he came in and he said, "Oh, look at this," and he pulled his top up, and it had gone. I was like, "What?" So then I was amazed by it. He wasn't that amazed. He was just, "Oh yeah." And then, so because I was never that health conscious, so the Sean Baker interview with Joe Rogan, that was sort of like 2017 ish. But I'd been sort of low carb keto with the carb backloading, carb night around 2014. So it'd been a long year's progress added up. So then I thought I really got interested in the health side of things, because when I was younger, I just wanted to have loads of muscle and perform in the gym. I didn't really care. And then I had my first child in 2019. And then I just looked at everything differently. For how can I sit and eat this pizza and tell him not to? So I really looked into the health side, and then the clients' success stories started coming out. Like, oh, my diabetes has gone away. Like my type 2 diabetes has gone away. My doctor's like baffled, obviously. And that was great. And I had a friend that went on it, and within 3 days, but he had bilateral shoulder pain, and it went completely. He'd had it for like 20 years. I was like, what is going on? I was really amazed by it. So I started to really look into the physiology of all the health side of it. I thought, I get that it's good for fat loss, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. I've got really lean for a competition, being on a high carbohydrate diet. So that was kind of like, it's like, okay, it's pretty cool. Like it really helps. So I'm not that hungry. I love that side of it. And it was kind of easier to lose fat. But then the health side of it was amazing. Like, and even in myself, and you don't realize that you've got any problems sometimes until they go away. It's like I had like bilateral, both sides, chronic knee pain for a while. And then I went carnivore. I was like, oh, it's gone. Like, what is going on? I put some tinned tomatoes back in, knee pain back. Like, what? That and potatoes, so like nightshade stuff. I thought, there's something in this. This is weird, but it's like a tough sell to people if they haven't experienced it. And then my clients started, like, my asthma's gone, my IBS has gone, my psoriasis has gone, my depression has gone. I feel amazing. I'm like, whoa, this is so fascinating. I'm like obsessed with it, a bit of a freak
Yeah.
about it.
So,
So
for you personally, how long has it been since you like got started with strict carnivore?
I did World Carnivore Month when I watched the Joe Rogan podcast with Sean Baker. And so it was the January, I think it was January 2018. So it'll be coming up like maybe 8 years, something like that.
Wow. And
So
no sign of scurvy yet.
not yet. That's the thing. So you get all these questions then, like, don't I need vitamin C? Like, what about fiber? What about vegetables? And it's understandable, because we're bombarded with all these false health claims. I believe, or like my doctor's worried about my cholesterol, and so it helped me understand it more by being an online coach during this, because I loved getting all these questions, because it made me, like, I could spend a full day watching podcasts, going down the rabbit hole of just vitamin C because somebody's asked me that. And anything to do with digestion, like constipation, diarrhea, like all these transition phases. It helped me learn. If I was just doing it on my own, I might not have experienced, like, if I've got a client that's got constipation, I might not have experienced that, and then I wouldn't have known how to answer it and things like that. So yeah, I think it might be 9 years next year. During that time, I haven't been 100%. It was more like dabbling in and out of it, sort of thinking, oh, and then I stumbled across some like Paul Saladino stuff, and he started being more animal based, introducing fruit, and then everyone sort of went on that movement a little bit. So you think, oh, the grass might be even greener. But I've tried that, and carnivore's like my reset button. I always gravitate back towards that default mode. But the hardest part for me was not having a cheat meal on a weekend. That was kind of like my bodybuilding background, where that's your cheat meal. And I thought, how can I enjoy like a Saturday night with my wife and my kids if we're not getting some crap food, basically, this junk? I was kind of envious of people like Anthony Chaffee and yourself and Sean Baker. I thought, oh, I've had one piece of cake this year on my child's birthday. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you not crave these things? But I think it was more my sort of, I think I had a bit of a food addiction, to be honest. And it was probably implemented by all the bodybuilding stuff that you can binge on a week. It's like binging and purging. It's like so too strict, and then you go off the rails. Feel guilty. I'm on the cross trainer at 1 a.m. My wife's saying, "What you doing?" And I felt really guilty, and I wanted to burn it off, and I hated that, but I didn't know how to get out of that cycle, and that's why carnivore just felt so liberating. I thought, I'm actually full and satisfied. Why do I want to break this? And then I think I just went a couple of weekends in a row without, and I'd get like a ribeye or a tomahawk instead of like ground beef, mince, eggs, just because it was more expensive. And that was like my cheat without the detriment. I didn't feel hungover and groggy if I'd got a pizza or things. And I realised looking back, it was just beating like an addiction. The longer I went, the more I abstained from it. It got easier and easier. And then I'd go like 6 months without having anything other than your carnivore food. Dairy dabbled in and out, things like that, but it was really liberating and getting me over that sort of food addiction and those binging habits. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean that's the reason I'm not kind of emotionally attached to any of those foods anymore is only because basically I had to do the same thing as you, and that's you've got to kind of break that pattern. And it might take a couple of, like, if it's a Saturday night thing or something, it might take a couple of weekends, or if it's the thing you do in the evening, once you get home, if it's the beer or the whatever it is,
yeah,
you've just got to get to the point where that's no longer a habit that feels normal. And yeah, but now I can't even go near it now, because I'm the type of person that if I entertain the idea even once, I'll just be straight back there.
full,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm interested, like, how has being carnivore affected the work you do in the gym? Has it improved things at all, like stamina, endurance, muscle building?
For myself personally, my training.
Yeah.
Yeah. First thing I noticed, I'll be honest, there was an adaptation phase, but for me it was only like a week. I felt like someone pulled the plug on me a little bit, and I understood the physiology before then, luckily, so it didn't make me think, oh, I need carbs. A week or so in, my strength, I was a little bit weaker, but then it soon got back to my baseline where I was. And probably the main thing is the soreness, like the DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, post training, almost non-existent anymore. Which I might be sore for 4 or 5 days in certain muscles if I've done my legs, and then I'll train them now, thinking these are going to be sore. The next day, basically fine, like I could go sprinting and do it again. So that was probably the big one, and probably more the endurance during like a set. So say I've got say I'm on the leg press or something, and I've like 15 to 20 reps, like a high rep set. The burn doesn't seem to come as quick. And I looked into it a little bit, and I got this from Robert Sykes, Keto Savage's book, and he was talking about the monocarboxylate transporters, so MCT transporters, which allow ketones to cross the blood-brain barrier and things like that. But they also transport lactate, I believe. I think that's what they were saying. I think so. I wasn't getting this build-up of lactic acid, and that kind of made sense. So I think they help with shuttling out the lactic acid, that burn feeling. So definitely noticed that, and it was more that I had the get up and go. Like I train early in the morning. Like I literally get up, I get a cold shower, and then I'm off. Whereas when I was on a carb-based diet, I was like, I needed something before the gym. It was almost like I only had my little carb gas tank, whereas now I've got this big body fat gas tank as well. So yeah, energy-wise like that, and I don't need caffeine. That was another sort of story. Like I was really bad on caffeine. I don't have that anymore. I think carnivore made me not do that, because I've researched about that and heard about that, and yeah, more energy. And probably it was a tough one, because I feel like I started training when I was like 18, and then I didn't discover carnivore till maybe 10 years later. So I'd already made a lot of progress in the gym. So that's when I think people could say like, so, oh, well, look at all the carbs you used to eat, and that helped all this. So I'd love to start it from fresh, like if I had never trained before. So I wasn't expecting like a skyrocket of strength or anything like that. It's more that I can gain muscle but stay leaner. Now it's like, so I don't know if you're in stones or pounds or anything, but I'm around 13 stone, about 85 kilos, 180 pounds, maybe that. Probably wrong with those, but so around there. Whereas when I was on the carb-based diet, I was more 15, 16 stone, so around 100 kilos, 220 pounds, around that. And I might still, so I'll go in the gym, I might be training like my chest or something, and I'll know that I did 100 kilo for 10 reps, and then I might get one new rep that week. That's a win. That happens now, and it happened on a carb-based diet, but I'm sat 3 stone, 20 kilogram lighter. So it's like I didn't need the extra body fat. It was sort of beaten into us that you need to bulk up. So there's not this like bulking and cutting cycle anymore. It's more this maintenance, and I can slowly build muscle without the fat creeping on, which is nice aesthetically, and you feel better and things like that. So
I mean, it's been 8 years, but when you first started doing this, did you not kind of get comments from people that you typically regularly work with in the gym or around you saying, hang on, where's your chicken breast and broccoli? What's going on?
yeah, So 99% of the time I've got a lunchbox with mince, ground beef in, cold, 25% fat percentage. So I think they call it like 80-20 beef, don't they, like American wise. And you get some funny comments. Usually people say like, oh, you're not having anything with that? That's the main thing that I seem to get from it. Oh, are you allowed? That's the best. Are you allowed? It's like, yeah, I'm allowed to do what I want. I choose to. They're not being inflammatory or trying to annoy you. They're just, it's extreme to them, isn't it? And it was to me at the start. So yeah, I've usually got a lunch, but I'll usually make one at night, and it's in my fridge ready to, if I'm out for the day, that comes with me if I need it. But the choice is, I could be like, I'll just eat tonight then. I can decide to fast all day if I want to. So yeah, most people, it's usually, why haven't you got any seasons on it? So I use salt. I've experimented with salt in and out and different amounts, but it's usually, it might just be salted, that's it. Or do you not want some onions chopped with that? Can you have a bit of gravy with it? Or like, where's the carbs? Where's the veg? And then it sort of depends how much time you've got to speak to somebody, because in a nutshell, I just said, this has got everything I need, and I feel the best when I eat like this. And they can't really say anything back to you, like, unless some people might want to have an argument, or that some people get a little bit triggered by it and say, but you need vegetables or you need carbs. And then that opens a new avenue to talk down. So yeah, I think I say 99% of people are just intrigued. They're not trying to annoy you or anything like that. And then the odd person, I think sometimes, if it's like another sort of more of a bodybuilder person that's got like 6 lunch boxes in a bag stacked up, and every meal it might be chicken, rice, broccoli, chicken, rice, broccoli. I think it's almost like, why are you challenging the way I eat? But I'm not. And it's like, you can do what you want. This is just how I've tried that for a lot of years, and I can see the difference with my digestion, my energy, my mood, my mental clarity. And so what I've done is, with the Paul Saladino sort of influence and movement, I did 2 weeks putting fruit back in, and I didn't plan on doing 2 weeks. I wanted to do a month, but I couldn't carry on. So, and because everything, I just lost all the benefits: digestion, hunger control.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Did you
yeah,
feel kind of water weight coming back on or anything?
yeah. Within 2 weeks, I put on half a stone, so like 3 or 4 kilo. I think it's around there, 3 kilo, 7 pounds, 7 to 10 pounds I put on. I did. I feel sort of, my face looked puffier. I was really groggy in the morning. That was the worst one. I got sort of brain fog and groggy in the morning, almost hungover feeling. Like, what's this? And I thought, well, I'm just adapting. I get it. Like, I'm putting something new in my system. Like, what is going on? And the hardest part was like the hunger and satiety control. So I could eat the same amount of meat as if I'd eat. Say I had like 500 grams, about a pound of ground beef or mince or steak. I'd eat that and be full and satisfied. So I'd eat that still, and then I'd have some fruit on top, and I was ravenous. I couldn't stop eating. it was like my brain was like, winter's coming, keep eating. That's what I think I've got from it now. And I hated that. I felt like I wasn't in control anymore. Felt I was like it wasn't up to me. Someone else was deciding this is what you're eating rather than in my control. And I didn't like that. I thought I carried it on. Yeah, a couple of weeks. I went to the toilet more, the more volume. Won't get into too much detail with that, but it wasn't the best. That all changed. But I thought, okay, that's an adaptation again because I got digestive stuff happening when I started carnivore, which I understand the physiology and it all. I can tell all my clients that, which is the best one, and 1 or 2 weeks max it goes. So yeah, It didn't agree with me. I tried different. I was that strict. It was like one orange a day. I've tried stuff like that. I thought, right, it's just the orange, and I noticed stuff. I know that's what's caused it. And to me, it just makes sense. It's like I've lost all the ketosis side of it because I'm putting glucose in, but then I've listened to certain influencers that say that my thyroid's it'll be better. My cortisol's too high. You know, you need glycogen from the carbs, and they sell it quite well. I thought, okay, that makes sense. But to me, I always went back to that. If I'm full and happy off this state, why have I got to go find an orange on a tree? And then why does it make me want 10 oranges? Whereas it's almost like the state gives me like a negative feedback loop. So I start eating and every sort of bite tastes a little bit not as nice. And then I'm full happy, feel a little bit sick sometimes, like stop eating. Whereas the orange was have another, have another, have another, have another. That dopamine. So I didn't like that. And that's why I liked carnivore. So I lost that benefit. So a couple of weeks of trying that. No, I'm back to that. And I started to feel amazing in the morning again, everything. And my gym workouts didn't change. If anything, I felt a little bit more tired from the carbs and stuff. So it ruined that side of it. Like, regardless of if it had made me feel a little bit more pumped up and water weighty, visually I might have done, but I didn't like how my face looked and things. And so, yeah, I'm not dogmatic about it. I'm open to trying these little experiments. But I just sometimes I think, why have I tried? I'm not trying that again. I know the answer now.
Yeah. You know, you make a good point there when you talk about how, like, if I'm feeling good, why do I need to add these things in? Right? Because there's no animal out there that there's no lion that goes and kills a wild boar or something, eats that, and then goes, yeah, but I probably should have some veg on the side. You know, it's like I wonder if I'm getting all my nutrition. What's happening with my cortisol? They just go, okay, I'm full. I'm gonna go lie down and sleep now.
Exactly. That's as yeah, hitting the nail on the head. Brilliant. That's why I love the simplicity and like liberation from this diet. It's so aligned with sort of how our body's supposed to work, and you've just got to try it to anyone that hasn't. And then obviously, if you need, there's so much support out there. Like you can YouTube any topic, follow people like yourself, and Anthony Chafee, Sean Baker, Ken Berry, all these people who live and breathe it. Like it's like your own little support network. Yeah, like brilliant. Just look, if you sort of imagine yourself as, I just think I'm just another animal. I'm no better than a lion. Like they know what to eat, they know when to stop eating, they know when to drink. I get that one a lot as well. I got that this morning off one of my clients. How much water shall I be drinking? I've no idea. Like we've got this thing called thirst, which is brilliant. So this built-in mechanism, and I even say to him, I say like, it sounds like I'm joking, and I'm not. Like it's a bit silly, but yeah, your body tells you if don't force water down you. That's what I say anyway. If you feel better with more water, I can't argue that with somebody, but I think your body's pretty smart, and it goes the same with like your hunger and satiety, and that's what I love about it. Yeah, just drink until you've quenched, and then you're fine.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing that I realized quite recently about the water is, like, I was drinking, 2, 3 liters of water a day, and um, I wasn't sleeping the best. And I realized that I think what my body was doing is saying, I need some salt. So go
Saw
and
your video.
right? And so
Yeah, yeah.
I'm thirsty, so I'm drinking water, but as my body's actually going, "You need salt." As soon as I started putting salt in, I stopped feeling like I needed to drink every 2 seconds.
That's amazing. I saw your video on it. after you reached out. I thought that was great. Because yeah, you might be diluting your electrolytes, which I think you spoke about on the
Mm.
video, and I thought it's something I'd probably try. So the only thing, obviously, I can talk about the positives all day. There's still some negative things which I don't know if they are to do with the diet. Sometimes I'm like wide awake at 3 in the morning, which your video I think spoke about, which was great. So maybe that's happening with me. That I might need to try play around with electrolytes and things like that. Because there's all these things like your protein to fat ratio. Do you have dairy? Do you have coffee? There's all these little nuances, little subsections of carnivore. I think if you've got the fundamentals and the big rock in the jar, animal based, bang, go from there. Everyone's slightly different with, yeah.
So you talked about caffeine before. So have you totally got caffeine out? Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Because
I
that's part
was,
of my problem. I've still got it in.
oh, no, and a lot of people do. And like, I nearly get drawn back to it sometimes. But for me, it was from the bodybuilding sort of side. It was all these fancy pre-workout tubs with all these shininess, and everyone's sponsored by them, and they're taking them before the gym, and these fancy coloured liquids. And I think we're designed to see sort of colourful fruit, and like, whoa, I think maybe that's that part of the brain or something that this might not be around for a while. Yeah, but I've got a bit of an addictive personality, so I'm better with same with alcohol. Like I stopped drinking alcohol when my son was born, so he's nearly 7. So and it kind of tied with that. I thought, well, what else am I addicted to? And that was one. And the problem is, I just build a tolerance quickly. So it was like one scoop, which might be around sort of 4 cups of coffee. The amount of caffeine in those, it might be like at least 200 milligrams. Then I was like a scoop and a half, 2 scoop. Then it was like 3 scoops mixed with a white Monster Energy just to feel awake. That was during one of my bodybuilding preps. Um, and it was, I thought this again, I don't like the not feeling liberated. It had a tie on me, and I thought I'm addicted to this. I'm sat in the office. I owned a gym, so I've sat in the office of my gym on my own, feeling like a bit of a crackhead. I felt like I'm on drugs. I thought I'm wired, but if I didn't have them, I'd be on standby mode, like limp mode, whatever you call it. And I didn't like it, so I did a bodybuilding competition, and me and my wife we had like a 4-hour drive, and I said, right, tomorrow I'm done with caffeine, and that's my personality. It was just I'm quitting cold turkey. Don't recommend it, by the way. Banging headache, but to me, it's like see it through. I know if I have a cup of coffee, I'll feel great, but I'm back on the Ferris wheel. Then I'm back on the merry-go-round of being addicted. Couple of days of a headache. Couldn't first couple of workouts. It was weird. It was like what you were saying about just that. It's just a habit. Getting a takeaway on a weekend. It was just the habit of putting the kettle on, pouring it, or before the gym, whatever it was. And I'm like, well, this is weird, and water doesn't really taste that good. But I slowly sort of reset my system, and my taste buds must have altered, and I started to just like water. And I never really went back. I don't think. No, I think that was sort of it. And I'm like, and it was good to be able to get out of bed and just go to training without waiting for my pre-workout caffeine to kick in and have to take it 45 minutes before the gym. So it just made everything more simple. But I think it's more addictive than alcohol from what I've got from my sort of clients. My clients seem to be able to knock the alcohol on the head easy, but the caffeine, the coffee or whatever, because I'll send them all a questionnaire, and that's part of what I want to know, like the fluid intake and the caffeine. And I've had people 15 cups a day of coffee and things like that, and that's a lot to drop down from, but it is possible. Highly, yeah, recommend if you can, but some people do great. Like it was just for my personality, I just wanted more. Like when I used to drink alcohol, I'd get absolutely blathered. I couldn't have one drink. That I was off. I need none, and that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think I'm the same. Like when you're describing, you're building up the tolerance to coffee, I'm thinking, yeah, that's kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
where I'm going, like I don't scoop, I do a drip coffee, a filter coffee, I don't kind of scoop out a nice little scoop of coffee and I just open the bag and dunk in the bag.
Yeah.
Um, so as far as your clients go, are they all carnivore? Are they kind of some keto, that kind of thing, or have you got like some vegan clients?
Yeah, I basically call it my book. If they work with me, I send them an email with basically it's my interpretation of. I call it the optimal human diet because my business was called it's Optimal Bodies is my business, so I like the word optimal, and now like that's Optimal Carnivore. I've changed that to my Instagram handle and YouTube now, to try to be more niche because I'm anyway. So yeah, basically could send them like almost like a blueprint, like a starting point, but the main personalization comes when we use WhatsApp as a like a 24/7 communication with my clients. So I have like a basic blueprint, but I do understand that everyone is slightly different, and then we go from there. So I'll give them like this is our starting point, but then I give so many other options of like which avenue you want to go down. Like I spoke of before with like the dairy and the caffeine, and then if you some people want to keep alcohol in, everyone's you realize how different we are in a way even though like I don't think our DNA is that different. I think it takes a long time to change, like hundreds of thousands of years. So I try and explain that to people. But like if I eat dairy, I get constipated. I've got clients that can have dairy every meal and they feel great, absolutely fine. I eat it and I can't stop eating it. I get that sort of case of morphine addiction thing going on. But yeah, to answer your question, I usually have a starting point, like a blueprint or whatever you want to call it, that I try get them carnivore, sort of like almost like that reset button, and then we can see which avenue you're going to go down. And I have like I talk about reintroducing like carbohydrates, pros and cons. But end of the day, they've just got to try it themselves. They've got to reintroduce things one at a time. I usually say one thing for a month. Your body will tell you everything you need to know well before then, I believe. I don't expect everyone to be strict carnivore for the rest of their lives, but I've yet to see a client that comes off the diet and feels better. Goes back to like a standard American diet or everything moderation, things like that. They always seem to lose the benefits slowly. And then I always say it's a slippery slope back to square one. And unfortunately, I've bumped into people that have put all the weight back on and some. And it's such a shame when they've beat all these addictions. And I think a lot of time, I think we just live in a society that you walk into like a grocery store or a supermarket and there's 10,000 different flavors of bags of crisps, this variety that people can't seem to let go. And it is tough because it's in your face all the time. But I think same with the not having the cheat meal thing with me. I think just time is the best healer and the abstinence from it that that is just blur to me now. I'll walk to the meat basically, and I don't look at all these things and I don't have to have that mental battle and use sort of, obviously like, I think willpower is like it's not an infinite source, using willpower to have that mental fatigue decision. Do I get that or do I not? Oh, and I think if you have to have that conversation with yourself, you're sort of admitting that you know that you shouldn't be doing it. So yeah, I'd say like for people, it is just time and creating new habits, and it just becomes the norm. I'd never think about it anymore. Where every Saturday night I used to think about what we're eating. I'd think about it's Monday today. I'd be thinking about what we're doing. I can't wait to eat on Saturday. Whereas now I can enjoy every meal. And Saturday I might buy a tomahawk. That's my cheat. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's pretty bad, right? When like I remember back in the day, I would make arrangements like where I was going on vacation or what I was doing on the weekend would revolve around what restaurant was at the place we were going to. And if there was nothing good or nothing open, we'd have to go to a different part or something, It was
yeah,
never about just enjoying being there. It was always about what can I eat or drink when I'm there.
yeah.
Mm.
Um, I was exactly the same. And it just reminded me of something when I was doing a bodybuilding prep. I was in my car in a Morrison supermarket car park, eating donuts on my own, sort of ashamed. I didn't want anyone to see me. I thought I'm starving, and I just sit in my car and binge them. And that. And to me, like I can say that was a problem, like a food. I'd say that was a food addiction or some sort of whatever you want to call it. Yeah, looking back, so I'd hate to feel that controlled by a food, an addictive substance that's like scientifically designed to be that bliss point of everything. But I don't think you realize until you take a step back and you're an outsider looking in That's why I always say just go for it and give it a go if you're tempted to do carnivore. But then all of a sudden you can't unsee it,
Right.
and which is double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's like when you finally step out and you kind of realize, wow, all this stuff has kind of been manufactured just to keep me addicted to it. It's so good that I've been able to step away from it, and I don't have those feelings anymore. And then you start to look around and go, I always thought, in the future, it would end up becoming like a dystopian movie. And you kinda look around you and go, "It's like a dystopian movie now." Because when you break the addiction and you realize how everyone is so addicted to, like, the foods are being manufactured to keep us basically, you know, in the trough, literally,
Exactly.
like, it's quite confronting.
Scary. Yeah. I think the film you're referring to is Wally.
Ah, yeah,
Have you
yeah,
seen
that's
whether
it. There,
is
yeah,
that what you?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
fantastic. Watch. If you haven't seen that, watch that. That's where we're heading, and it's a choice. You don't have to, But yeah, no, it's interesting you spoke of that. But yeah, if you want to talk about my bodybuilding recently, I competed last year.
Oh, sure. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, how did it go?
I've, yeah. So I've been competing since I was about 19, 20 years old. So about 2010, and it was always the generic 6 meals a day, high carbohydrates, low fat, chicken breast sort of thing. And even when I competed 5 years prior to that, and I'd already been pretty much carnivore, and I went back having carbohydrates because I was getting ready for a competition. I was like, well, this doesn't make sense, but I didn't know any other way. But then I stumbled across, like, I got Sean Baker, a Get Shredded guide thing with some video things, which were very good. And then I got the Keto Savage, Robert Sykes's book. So, because there weren't many people that were documenting it, especially natural. So I get drug tested, so I don't take any performance enhancing drugs or anything like that. So him and Sean Baker were really good sort of mentors, if you want to call them that. So 5 years prior, in 2020, I'd done it, but still had carbs and caffeine like ridiculous. And then 5 years later, because as a natural bodybuilder, you have to sort of have a bit of a big gap to make progress because it's more of a marathon than a sprint. If you're not taking like anabolic steroids, muscle gain is very, very slow. Not to put anyone off it, but for me, it is anyway. So this were 2025 last year, and I'd read all Robert Sykes's book, and he'd used it basically how to prep for a competition in a ketogenic way. And he did refer to carnivore during the book as well, which was great. So I used his book, and it was more, so I had like a baseline of I hover around the same weight, eating the same food. I'm happy with that. My body fat is at this body fat set point. To get unnaturally lean for a competition, which isn't healthy, it's better if you're not doing it with steroids, but your body can't stay that long. So just to let people understand, I'm peaking for like maybe one day of that year, and I might not do it again for a few years. So I'll get unnaturally lean. And what I did was, so I started off, because I don't track calories or protein or fat or anything. Now and again, I'll have a look out of interest. So to start my prep, I knew what protein I was at, what fat I was at, and what the calories were. So because carbs were out of the equation, fat was basically the only lever to pull. Made it really sort of freeing, really, and uncomplicated. So I just basically, it was an 18-week period I give myself, and I just gradually ate leaner and leaner cuts over time. Because obviously, if I'm not eating the fat from my diet, it had to take more from my body. The hardest part is juggling, keeping the muscle tissue as you come down. So because of my personality, I go too extreme. So I started off on like 25% mince. 99% of it were just eating mince. It was easier for me to comprehend. So I'd do that for a few weeks until my weight plateaued. So I'd weigh myself once a week on a Saturday morning. If it plateaued, I'd have a look at myself and I thought, I haven't changed. And then I went down to 15% fat mince. A few more weeks at that. Then I ended up on 12, and then I was on 5%, and that tastes awful. That your body don't want to be there. And this is where the leaner you get, satiety hormones are dropping, your leptins dropping, your ghrelins shooting up. So it's hard, but you're doing it for a goal and you're in it then, especially. But what I realised was, compared to these high carb preps that I've done for like every other competition, maybe 10, 12 competitions over the years, I was hungry straight away with the carb thing. And it was like an emergency every 2.5 hours. Like I was getting lightheaded, like hypoglycemic, because you're like this with carbs up and down and blood sugar. It was really stable. And I was probably like halfway through and I thought, I'm not hungry. I think I was eating one meal a day at first and I was struggling to finish the meal. I was like, what's going on? As you get leaner as a natural athlete, your testosterone starts to temper down because your body thinks it's sort of in a famine and it doesn't have a lot of energy. So it's thinking, why would I waste energy reproducing? I can't look after myself. So your testosterone naturally drops. So you start to feel a little bit effects of that, like gym strength, motivation, and things like that. But the hunger was fine, which that was the biggest difference comparing a ketogenic carnivore approach to a carb-based approach. And yeah, I ended up basically for a couple of weeks before competition, it was just chicken breast, which I don't recommend. I dropped my fat too low, thinking I'm going to push it now. I'm going to really put my foot down, and you're going to sacrifice some muscle in my experience doing that because you need some energy. But I was just I call it prep brain. That's when I'd need a coach to rein me in to say no. And I was out walking like too many hours trying to burn, using that as a tool. But it's always worth doing it because you learn stuff from it. I've got like a plethora of notes from it for feedback for if I ever do it again. I'd definitely keep the fat higher. But yeah, basically in a nutshell, it was gradually eating leaner over time. But people might do it with more expensive cuts. So they might start on ribeyes, then they might be on sirloin, then rump or things like that. So, and it makes sense. You're eating less fat coming in, so it has to use your body fat.
Like what at that point, after you were just on chicken breast, around at that point, like what was do you know what your body fat percentage was at that point?
I never tested it. I used to do when I was younger, and we had these skin calipers, and when it got under like sort of 5%, it didn't register anymore. Like that was like the lowest. But no, so when you're on stage, nobody really cares what your body fat is. But yeah, I do get this question a lot. Say, well, what percent do you think you was at? So I don't actually know. I think you'd need to get like a DEXA scan, or they do it like in water, don't they, and things like that to be accurate. But I would, if you're getting into single digits, then you're starting to get a bit freaky looking. But I would say I was around 5% body fat, I'd guess. Like, so some people say sort of 3, but I wasn't that low. Like, that's ridiculous, I'd say. But if I had to guess, maybe 5-6%. But to me, I'll see like a vein that I've seen before, like in my abs or something like that. All these veins coming in my legs, and like it's just all these new things. Or there's some like striations on my tricep, and I know I'm sort of getting there, and I see all these things. And to me, because I've sort of set the bar with what condition I've got in before, how low body fat, I always want to beat that. That's my goal. So I'm not happy. So I can to the average person, maybe 12 weeks before my competition, people are saying, there's nothing left of you. You look shredded. I'm like, no, I've still got fat on my glutes or my hamstrings, and then I start to see. I'll tense my hamstring and have my phone behind me, looking in the mirror to see, and I'll see like they're called cross striations. You might know already. So your hamstrings are running vertically, and you get these horizontal lines. I've never seen them before. That's amazing, and that kind of just pushes me on a bit to be like, okay, I can put up with the hunger a bit more now. I'm just on chicken breast, or I can put up with the lack of energy and things. It's hard. Yeah, I don't recommend it unless you really want to do it. But yeah, you've got to be single digit body fat percentage to step on stage, in my opinion. But if you've never done it before, you're probably going to be the leanest you've ever been in your life. So it doesn't matter. I'd just say go for it, and then you've got a blueprint then, and you've got something to beat next time. So the more you do it, the less satisfied you get. You're getting really lean, but you're like, no, I can be leaner, and it's again with my personality,
Yeah.
it's
And the next day, are you back on like 80-20 mince, or you're just like, all right, I'm done with
yeah.
this. I'm gonna put the fat back on.
Interesting you say that. Oh my god, I worked out the calories, and I ate 11,000 calories the days after the show. So this was a good thing though. Normally I'd binge, I'd be thinking about what I'm going to eat, and I'd go out, I'd be like, Monday I'm eating a Subway, Tuesday I'm going to McDonald's, I'm getting a Chinese, and that all went. So that's what I put like the carnivore diet in great regard, that I feel like I'd beaten that addiction. I thought, why would I go back to that? I didn't do that anyway. So whereas during preps, even during, like when I was sat in the car eating donuts, that was during a prep once, and like I'd cheat on it, like, so that wasn't on the table anymore. That was brilliant. So I just had 2 big ribeyes, and I think I had a kilo of Greek yogurt ready in the fridge, and I ate that the night of the competition. And then my body, because the leaner you get, the hunger does start to rise, and you don't have that leptin signal from your body fat cells, that satiety. I could not stop eating, but I thought, no, I'm not eating anything I don't want to eat. I'm just it was basically just mince, but I could eat maybe like 5 packs, like 5 pounds of it or something. And then I put dairy in as well, because it couldn't seem to satisfy that hunger. So, but every day it got a little bit easier, because as I'm reaching, say like my body fat needs to be here and I'm down here, I just gradually got back to around like 13 stone, 80 odd kilo, and your satiety just gets a little bit better. So yeah, and I had to eat more often after the show. It was like every couple of hours I was hungry again, but your body just wants to put the body fat on. And because I almost felt like during a prep, I feel like I'm in calorie prison, I call it. And it's like, say the show's on the 25th of July, that's when I'm allowed out of prison. And it was like that. There were no restraints, but I did it sticking to basically the same foods that I ate. Whereas before it was like, right, well, this is the meal I'm eating, these 2 chicken breasts. If I'm starving after, it doesn't matter. I'm going to bed hungry. That is on prep, and I'd made a decision. So it does take a lot of willpower and a strong mental person, I'd say. But once you're there, you might have done 15 weeks of this. You know, you're pretty much, momentum's going. You don't want to sort of pack it in. But yeah, it was almost like I've been let out of prison, and you can eat as much as you want now. And that's when I discovered, yeah, dairy wasn't for me again. I don't know why I went back to it and thinking it'd be a different story. Constipation, addiction, yeah, lose that sort of liberty feeling.
Yeah, I've got some cheese in the fridge over there, and I'm just like, don't start, because you'll start and you won't put it back down, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were talking to someone that was interested in trying carnivore, and they're willing to give it 90 days to see if they can make some changes, would you advise them to just rip the Band-Aid off and jump in, or maybe transition in slowly, go keto first, that kind of thing?
Yeah, bang, yeah, get it off. Yeah, only probably because I feel like, yeah, 90+% of my clients, I just can do that, and they understand. It's more of knowing the withdrawal symptoms and the keto flu and things like that. I think if you educate them on all this, to me, it was like when I stopped caffeine, I knew what to expect, and it made me want to carry on. And so I got like the headache and things, and I thought, no, this is working. This is part of it. This is showing how addicted I was. So almost apply that to my clients. And I pre-warn them as well. I said, like, about the keto adaptation, you may have this. You're gonna have carbohydrate cravings, and I always say, good. That means you're addicted to them. You know, things like that. It don't work for everyone, but I think I'll be honest. Like 90+% of my clients, I'm like, rip the Band-Aid off, and some surprise you. Some are like, the first day doing it, I feel amazing. I've slept all night. I'm like, what? I said, yeah, you should have felt like this all your life, and I wish we did. You get the odd ones that really struggle, and that's when I might have to take a step back. Say, right, okay, let's not take the caffeine out as well. If you drink once a week alcohol, like, let's maybe keep that in for now. Let's just get rid of the carbs for now, and then we can slowly build it back up. Which, again, I think that's more of a personality thing. If that's what you need to do, that's great. But I would say you're not coming off heroin. I don't think you're going to be like lying in a pool of your own sweat, shaking, things like that. I don't ever recommend. If you start to feel like that, you might need some carbs, or whatever you might need. But yeah, I don't think it should be that extreme. But then I always say, the worse somebody's diet is at the moment, I think the more withdrawal symptoms they're going to get. But it is highly normal, and I'd say see it as feeling powerful that you're changing something in your body that, oh my, like this is working. Like, yeah, I am craving that. So, well, brilliant. Don't have it in the house, which is another story. If say, oh well, it's the kids eat that. So it's like it has to be in the which is another rabbit hole. But yeah, again, in a nutshell, I'd rip the band-aid off. But that's just me, and that's what I've experienced.
Yeah, I think
May be wrong.
the setting of expectations that you're talking about, I think that's really important, because if people are expecting, the diarrhea, or if people are expecting the headaches, if people, are expecting these things, then when they happen, they're more likely to go, okay, well, this is okay. I'm starting to go through the journey then. So something's working. But if they don't know anything about it,
Like, whoa. Yeah, I think education
Mm,
very powerful
yeah,
with it. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, definitely.
So how can people find you online?
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see my name on the screen. So my Instagram and my YouTube is Optimal Carnivore. So there's an underscore after Optimal for the Instagram. My name is Rob Wardley on Facebook. I have a Facebook business page which is Optimal Bodies Performance Nutrition Education. I call it. So that's what I thought. That's why I really like the educating part. I don't like just to say like, oh, here's your diet sheet, meal one, meal two, off you go. Do you know? I think if you can educate somebody and they know why they're doing it, then it's so powerful. And like that's what helps with me. When I saw that Sean Baker on Joe Rogan interview, I understood all I need. I'm like, I need to know the why. I need to know the science. I never knew the science of chicken, rice, and broccoli. It didn't make sense to me. So that's what I really liked it. But so yeah, I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook at the minute. And yeah, I'm a full time online coach. I used to personal train people in person. I do that now and again as well, if like certain people if they're local. But I think online coaching's taking off. Like obviously the social media has made the world a lot smaller, and the internet and things, and it there's a lot of pros, but there's a lot of cons as well, you know. Um, so yeah, I'll work with anybody that I love because you always learn something. That's the best thing, you know. I might have clients that are £300. I might have clients that want to step on stage and get 3% body fat as a bodybuilder. And I love working with them all because you always learn something.
No worries. Well, I'll link to all of those in the show notes.
Thank you.
Rob, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for reaching out, and thanks. It's a pleasure being on.